afternoon. This is Patriot Picker and my name is Chris, and we're down in the eBay bunker, but with a different background. Yes, I am in reverse mode. So reverse mode is the opposite side of what you normally see in my store. So behind me is my what I call my eBay bookshelf. All the books you see behind me are the books that we are trying to sell on eBay. Wanted a different backdrop. I wanted a different look because today we got something new for you. We're going to be presenting a new series on my channel of some things that I've learned along the way so far. These things are going to include sourcing, how to get started on eBay for the very first time, what to look for when you go into areas to source, what items are selling, what are not. Some of those key topics like that can kind of catch you off guard if you jump into this thing in full speed, or as we used to say in the military, head first. And we don't want you to get your butt kicked. We want you to have a good time. We want you to enjoy it. This whole thing with reselling is a lot of fun. It just kind of varies. Reselling is kind of like being on a roller coaster. You know, you have your up moments and then you have some downtime, and you have your up moments and downtime. Pie in the sky dreams, right? So here's reality. We're going to talk today, and we're going to title this video called Sourcing 101. What is sourcing? For those of you who have no idea what this means, how you get started, there's some things you need to know, okay? So the first thing we're going to talk about in this series is Sourcing 101. What is sourcing? Sourcing is just simply finding items that you can flip for profit. And the key word there is profit. You do not want to be out buying items at some outrageous price, turning around thinking you're going to be able to sell it, but then not making anything or breaking even. There's no point in that. If you want to do that, don't do it on eBay. Find another venue to do that on. But if you're wanting to make profit, you've got to find items to flip. Now, you've got to be able to get those items at the lowest possible price so that you can make the most profit. You don't want, again, you do not want to be buying things. Let's say, for example, you find something that's $10, and when you look it up on eBay to find out what the comps are on that, and we'll be covering all these terms that I might be dropping later on. But you look it up on eBay and you find out that that $10 item is only selling for maybe $7 at the most. And although it will sell, after eBay's fees, after taxes and everything, are you really profiting by purchasing this item for $10? What I have learned so far in watching folks like myself on YouTube that do this full-time, and the reason I watch a lot of people who do it full-time is because they all had to start somewhere as well, and they've got a ton of experience to share. Some folks have a niche. This means that they only focus on a particular item, such as clothing. They only sell clothing. Some folks focus nothing more but on antiques or on sporting goods equipment, toys. I myself have started into the waters of being one who buys and sells a variety of items. I am no professional in any one area. I am one who believes in variety, that folks look for variety. There have been a lot of my subscribers talking to me lately about, finding a niche. Well, right now, what I have the most in stock is board games and puzzles. So I could very easily just kind of fall over into that category and say, this is going to be my niche. I'm going to be that board game go-to guy and that jigsaw puzzle go-to guy. But I am not there, and I do not want that as of right now. Where do you source? Sourcing to me is like fishing. You go out to a place that you have heard someone tell you about that is a great place to catch great fish. So you go out to that place, you throw your line in the water, and you hope that you catch exactly what the guy that told you about the spot caught before. The only problem with that is that sometimes they don't tell you that they used a certain kind of bait. And so then you start trying to use different bait. And sourcing is like fishing. It's like discovering a place where you know that you can get quality items at cheap prices and then make the most profit from. But here's the catch, using a play on words. The catch is that you may not always go to a specific place to source and always have the same success. For example, we have, and I've said this in my videos before, we have about 7, 8, I can't remember what the exact number is, but about 7 or 8 Goodwill stores here in Lynchburg, Virginia, in the surrounding area of Lynchburg, Virginia. I can go to any one of those Goodwill stores on any given day and find absolutely nothing. And when I say nothing, I mean you walk out the door and you go, where in the world do I go now? But on another given day, I can walk into that particular store and I can find $40, $50 worth of merchandise to come home and flip and put on the store and be able to make a profit from. So where do you source? I've given you one already. You want to look for your local thrift stores. Goodwill is not the only thrift store in town. There are mom and pop shops. There are privately owned thrift stores. And sometimes they're looking to make a profit as well. So you got to keep that in mind. But if you can maybe do some kind of business with them and get something for a lower price by buying in bulk, that's an idea. But what you want to do is you want to build relationships with these people. You want to develop a relationship of trust because they know that you are in it for profit and they're in it for profit. But if you can develop a relationship with folks of trust, then when you walk in the door and they see you, they sort of kind of trust you enough to be able to say, I want to help this person out. Someone helped me when I got started, and I want to help them as well. So thrift stores are a good place to start. Another place to start are at flea markets. Here in Lynchburg, we have a couple of places that do flea markets on occasion, and they sometimes it'll be a great place for you to go and spend some time and try to find some items to source. But there's something you need to know, the difference between a thrift store and a flea market. At a flea market, you've got an individual usually that you're working with who's willing and dealing with you. You may say, what do you want for this? And they might say, oh, I'd take 10 for that. And then you want to say, well, I'll give you 8. And they may say, let's do 9 and call it a sale. At a thrift store, the prices are already marked. They're not going to negotiate any with you. So you're going to have to pay the full price of whatever that item is. Just keep that in mind. It's like yard sales, garage sales, same thing. Those are usually the best places to source because you can find items a lot cheaper at yard sales and such, or indoor sales that happen periodically in your community. Sometimes they're at churches, sometimes they're in community centers, sometimes they're even in fire hall stations. Wherever it is that you can find, there's a good chance that you'll be able to get things at a much reasonable price for you so that you can turn around and make decent profit. So thrift stores, then we've got flea markets, we've got yard sales, and we also want to look at Facebook Marketplace. Now, Facebook Marketplace is an interesting topic. maybe you've listed on Facebook Marketplace to sell something yourself. Usually the folks that are listing on Facebook are trying to get the highest possible price for their item. And you can't blame them. When I list on Facebook Marketplace, I'm trying to get the highest, profit for my item. I'm not going to put it on there. If it's worth to me $50, I'm not going to put it on there for $10. I'm going to hope that somebody comes along that wants it, will pay full price. A lot of times when people put stuff on Facebook Marketplace and they list it, they put in their description, they say price not negotiable. Okay? But then again, if that item does not sell in a number of days or weeks, you will begin to see that this person has started dropping their price. We call that reduced price listing. And there is a topic on Facebook Marketplace for reduced prices. I tend to gravitate toward the reduced price section. These are folks who have had their item on there for a while, and they're willing at that point, because they're bringing that price down, they're willing to do a little bit more negotiation with you. So that's another key place. So we have sourcing places. We have flea markets, thrift stores, yard sales. We have Facebook Marketplace, and then there's Craigslist as well. Craigslist is another place that you can find folks who are trying to sell items for a lot cheaper than what they paid for them. And even though Craigslist has sort of kind of lost a lot of popularity of recent due to some crazy stuff that went on Craigslist, there's still people using Craigslist to sell items. And you can find some great stuff there if you just take the time and look in the subcategories of what you're looking for, and you should be able to find some stuff there that you can source from. So we got Craigslist, and then we have box stores, or as some people call them, brick and mortar stores. And what you want to do there is you don't want to obviously go into their main aisle. You want to go find their clearance section. And in their clearance section, there are opportunities. Sometimes there's even opportunities of retail arbitrage where you can buy in bulk, and that was a video that I'd recently put out. Recommend you go and watch that video on Pioneer Woman and how we did with some of those items that we've listed on our store right now. And so you can find items in box stores, markdown prices, but be warned, especially in, and I won't give the name, but one of the biggest retail chains in the entire world right now. It starts with a W, and their clearance section is not always really clearanced. It's not going to be, as I said earlier in the video, it's not going to be to your advantage to buy something for $19.99 on clearance that you find you can only sell for $19.99 on eBay. You're not going to make any profit. So you want to find, and remember, the lowest price you can get an item for flipping for a higher profit margin. So we've talked about Craigslist, we've talked about box stores. There's also word of mouth. This is an area that I think is overlooked sometimes, is just reaching out to your family and friends and saying, is there anything that you have that you would like to part with, that you would like for me to sell on eBay for you? I'll do all the work. I'll list it. I'll take the pictures, and we can share in the profit. This is an area that I'm dabbling into right now as my venture here on reselling is taking off. I'm really getting into spreading out my network and starting to talk to people about what I'm doing and what I'm attempting to do, what my long-term goal is here, and sharing with them and saying, hey, we both can make some profit here. And so word of mouth is another place to source. You've got all kinds of friends and family members who want to clean out areas of their home, and they've got really good stuff. And they don't want to spend the time going to Goodwill, packing it all up, going to Goodwill. They don't want to do the listing themselves on Marketplace. They don't want to put it on eBay. They just want to get rid of it. And if you can help them, they would love for you to come to their house and and grab it all up, and you do the work and then pay them a little bit, say, 20% of what you make. So what we're going to do now is we're going to take a topic of item that you can go and look for. The question is, what do I look for when I go into a thrift store? We're going to start with electronics. If I don't see any, I ask. This is another key area for sourcing. If you don't see it, it does not mean they don't have it. If you don't ask, you don't receive. So remember to always ask. For example, you go up to a yard sale and you see everything visibly out on the driveway, on the tables, in the boxes that folks are wanting to sell, and they may have a PS4 video game, which is one of the latest video games on the market right now soon. But that is on the PlayStation. That's what PS stands for, PlayStation 4. It's a video gaming system. You may see a game or two, but you don't see the video game system. The person didn't think about, when they put the video games out, that they might want to get rid of the video game system as well. So ask when you see the video games. Say, I see here that you're wanting to get rid of some of these video games. Would you be interested in parting with your actual gaming system? And believe it or not, I've had folks look at me and say, oh, I never even thought about that. Let me go in and look, and come back out with the entire video game system with the remotes and the wires and everything that goes with it. And now you've just found another item that wasn't even there. And the way you do that is you have to ask questions. Maybe is in one video reseller that I've subscribed to. He went to a yard sale, and while he was there, he said, well, do you have anything else you'd like to part with? And the guy just was like, well, I haven't really thought about it, but come on in. And he welcomed inside. They got inside this guy's house and found out that he had an entire NASCAR collection. So this is a shout out to John Cincinnati Picker. Remember that video, sir. And John was able to get the entire, I don't know if it was the entire collection. I don't think it was the entire guy's collection, but he got a lot of his collection at a really good price. And then John was able to turn around and flip those items for a larger profit. And so that's what you have to be willing to do. You have to be able to know to ask for extra if you don't see it there. So we're going to talk about electronics now. So what I have done is, in front of me here, which you can't see, I've got a few electronics that I want to point out and make some points to. When you walk in the store and into an area and you're sourcing and you're looking for electronics, there's some things that you got to pay attention to. Number one is the condition of the item. For example, I'm going to pick up something here and I'm going to show you how easy it is to pass up something without paying attention to the condition. So I'm going to bring this up closer to the video. This is a Sony, and it's a vintage cassette player radio combination. It is not a CD player, just cassette and radio. And I went into one of our local thrift stores and I found this, and I brought it home and found out that it, before I walked out of the store, it had batteries. It had batteries in it back here, and there was a cord with it. Okay, here's the cord, right? And I got home, and voila, it works. Everything's good, except I plugged the cord in, and it didn't work. You know why? Because this isn't the right cord. Now, this is deceptive because your thrift store folks, they don't know sometimes. They will combine things and attach it to the item, and you're thinking, oh, that goes with this, and you find out when you get home, it doesn't go with this. What's the mistake here? early on I learned that you have to. If you cannot do what I'm about to tell you, it's not worth purchasing the item, because you're going to turn around and you're going to have to take it back. If they have a return policy, you better hope they do. You can turn it back in and get your money back, but a lot of places don't that are selling used products. So one of the things that you want to look at first is the condition. All right, so for example, on a cassette player, you want to make sure that when you hit the stop eject button, that the window opens up, okay? If it doesn't open, then you've got to put yourself in the position of the buyer. They may not want it if it doesn't work properly. So condition, is it working? And another area, a topic, is age. Now this particular item here is a late 1980s, early 1990s item. And how do we know that? Because it's just a cassette player. It doesn't have a CD player. That came later on. So this is considered a vintage item. A lot of folks on reselling, they love to sell vintage stuff because it sells well and you can make good profit. But the problem that I also noticed is that the handle is broke. And the plastic that holds this together has come loose. And, well, actually it's snapped. And so this handle, even though it's still on the product, it still goes back and forth because this side over here is still attached. But it's going to have to be repaired and have to be sold as a broken item. And I do not have the original cord to plug it in without batteries. So what can I do? Well, I have to decide, is it worth it? Do I keep it myself, repair the little handle with some super glue the best I can, put some batteries in it, and use it for myself down here in the eBay bunker, which is probably what I'm going to do. And what do I do with this? Well, I don't know if you can see that or not, but there's some writing on here that gives you the model number of what this plug is. And you can go online and you can find what this actually goes to. And you can turn around and you can actually sell this on eBay. Yes, that might sound crazy, but it is true. You can sell plugs to electronic equipment on eBay. Folks are looking for everything on eBay. Let me say that again. They're looking for everything on eBay. If it's something that can be sold, eBay has a place for it. So, we talked about the condition. We talked about the, is it working? Is it in proper working order? Let's talk about another topic. I'm going to set this down and bring up another topic here. Let's talk about remote controls. Yes, remote controls just by themselves sell on eBay. Matter of fact, the one that I'm holding right here is on my store. This is a Sony DVD player remote. Now, when I picked it up, think about this for just a second. How do I know this works when I'm standing in the store? I do not. There's no way for me to know that. If this has the DVD player and the remote are together, then obviously, I'm going to do what I can to try to see and test to see if it works in the store. You can't always do that. When you're at a yard sale, you can't test things to see if they work. You just have to take the person's word for it. But I caution you, don't buy something like this if they're asking, $7 for just the remote, and you get home and you find out that you can only make $7 for it. You don't want to buy something like that. If this is 99 cents in your local thrift store and it's in decent condition, you can see, I'll bring it up closer to the camera, you can see that there's not any, it looks brand new basically, okay? Throw some batteries in there and sell that on eBay. So that's another area that I think is important to think about is, are all the parts of an item included? Now let me show you another example. This here is a Apple iPod. Okay, this particular one I think is a 80 gigabyte, And I want you to notice the cord that goes with it. This is useless if you don't have this. I purchased myself this iPod off of eBay from a seller. When I purchased it, it said that it came with a cord. When I got this item, it did not have a cord. So that seller did not do their job very well, because if you say that it has something and all the parts are included, you better make sure all the parts are included. If it doesn't have this don't work. So this is an electronic item. You plug this in, and then you plug the USB part of this cord to be able to charge this item, because it's basically a mini computer, to be able to play songs on. You listen to songs on, or podcasts, whatever. And the point I'm trying to make is, if you're going to buy something, make sure all the parts are included. This here is a vintage set of Christmas lights, all the way back to the late 60s, early 70s. It's I'm not going to take them out because this is an item I have on my store right now, but they're the really big, thick bulbs. Remember those? Almost 3 inches long. And when I saw these in the local thrift store, the first thing that came to my mind was, I'm not going to buy those. They'll sell because they're vintage, but I'm not going to buy them if they don't work. So I opened the box up, and a lot of times your thrift stores will tape things, by the way, and you've got to take a little tool with you when you go and do your sourcing to be able to cut that tape so you can get in there. And they don't mind, by the way, they don't mind you opening it up in certain thrift stores. I wouldn't do it without asking for their permission. And you open it up, and it has a plug-in cord, and you plug it into an electric socket, and they all come on, and you go, wow, voila, they all work. So this is something that I'll pick up. I mentioned about how it's vintage. When you're sourcing, look for vintage items. What does vintage mean? It just means that it's something that dates back in time to another time period that we don't live in today. Today, all of our Christmas lights are running off of LED. But back in the day, they were all running off of just regular, I don't even know what the terminology and nomenclature is for what they were called back then. But these are your, each lamp burns independently type bulbs. And the box, I want you to notice the box. The box itself is in really good quality condition, almost like it was just purchased, last week. And it has a little bit of fading and stuff on it due to its age. But guess what? A lot of people who like the vintage items, they like the box that it comes in. And so pay attention to what type condition the box is in, as well as the items inside it. All right, this is one of those shredders. You put them on top of a garbage can, you set it on top of a garbage can, and then you run your papers through it, and it automatically shreds things for you. It's a strip cut shredder. Now, this particular shredder here is an electric one. In other words, it has a cord you have to plug into an AC to be able to work and function. And so, one of the things I want to point out too, as we kind of conclude this first video in this series, is the importance of what does the item look like when you pull it out of the box. You can sometimes be in a situation where items inside of a box are surrounded by styrofoam, some kind of wrapping, and it can be deceiving to think that they're brand new because they're still in that styrofoam or in some sort of plastic wrapping where you can't actually visually see what this item is. And here's what I want to point out. You can pick this up, you can feel how heavy it is, and you can hear there's something in it, and you can think that it's new or whatever. You open it up and you find that there's that styrofoam plastic I'm telling you about, and you just automatically assume that that item that's on that box is the same item that's in that box. And I'm here to tell you, there's some smart folks out in the world. There's some sly folks in the world. I've been inside thrift stores before and opened these items up and found something totally different than what's on the box, or the box says it's new or close to new, and you open it up and it's in horrible condition. So you've got to do your homework while you're inside the store when it comes to sourcing for electronics. Now, we'll talk about that in a future video. But for now, this is Patriot Picker, and my name is Chris Robinson. I hope you got something out of this video today. And thank you again so much for everyone support and those of you who are subscribed. And if you're watching this video for the first time, please help me out and subscribe and click that bell button so that we can notify you whenever we make a new video. Your comments are so appreciative. Help us out. We will appreciate it, and we'll keep bringing you good quality content. So God bless every one of you, and God bless America. This is Patriot Picker, and we'll see you next time.